Lara, we're back for another episode of Simon Says. And, we've been talking about all the different things previously, some Malaysian issue. We talked a lot about the tariff that kind of affected the whole world.
Yeah, our favorite topic.
Yeah. And most recently, of course, there was a decision in Supreme Court. But also at the same time, I think just a couple of days ago, we have the State of the Union address in Congress, which kind of is related to the whole tariff and the American first, how Trump is posturing. So today we just kind of want to talk about these two things. But let's start with the State of the Union address, because I didn't know that the State of the Union was a provision in the Constitution.
Yeah, I mean, neither did I.
So the president is required to kind of update the Congress concerning the state of the union, how the union is doing. And so the first 100 years of the union, the president literally just give a written report. Like, okay, this is how we are, that kind of thing. But then I think it was Wilson Woodrow kind of became the first to physically address the Congress. And it became such an event. It became like very, very useful tool for the president to talk directly to the voters. Then, of course, also appealing to the Congress. And one of the things that people have been saying, about the separation of power, and we have this issue also here right now, right, in Malaysia. The Madani government wanted to introduce a separate attorney general. And I was just kind of following a little bit because Zaid Ibrahim came out and kind of criticized the whole thing and just say, look, why can't we just follow the UK system? I kind of forgotten already that in UK, the Attorney General and the prosecutor are the same officer, and that person has to be a member of parliament. It's not by law, but it's just their convention for a long time. So I start to kind of think about the separation of power, and because remember the tariff case, right after it came out, Trump had a press conference and he kind of criticized the Supreme Court decision. So I mean, we're just talking earlier on. I mean, every day at law school, at law firm, people criticize judgment. I mean, it is a very common kind of thing. But when we talk about the separation of power, I think people kind of misunderstood the term, as in they think that the three branches have equal power. Actually, they don't have equal power. When we say separation of power, we're saying that they all have their own obligation. It's like you have mother and father in a family and they have different obligation. It's not like who is greater or who is less great, that kind of thing. It's a different role. It's a different kind of authority that you have. So the judges have authority to make determination of cases. The Congress have authority to make law. And of course, in America, they control the purse. And the president, the executive have to run the country. So I think it's just a falsehood, because there are a lot of people who kind of insinuate that the executive cannot criticize the judiciary.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was kind of interesting that you sort of went towards this direction in terms of the separation of power, because oftentimes I think we are in such an era where equality is like almost like everything. And even like in sports, I mean, it's just so different. I mean, like when you watch tennis match, for instance, just the way that male players play versus a female player is completely different. So how can you then expect the government branches to have like equal powers altogether? But it's actually a good reminder that actually they are different. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean they are the same in terms of the power that they hold, because each of them have their own duties and obligation to discharge. And I like how you also mentioned that actually that the Congress has the power to control the purse, because I think one thing as I was reading about this whole tariff issue, and before we even come to the State of the Union, was that I was also thinking, hey, if we follow the libertarians' argument, is that the president doesn't have unlimited power. And the argument always almost certainly go back to article like First Amendment, where they just talk about this whole thing about, hey, the Congress holds the power to control the purse. And so without that, but I guess a lot of people also forgot that the Congress actually delegated that power to the executive. So hence President Trump was able to proceed with all this tariff negotiation various countries. And also, if you don't follow closely, a lot of people will be thinking the reciprocal tariff thing is like still there. And so actually it comes down to like business dealings and negotiation where you discuss this is potentially what you could be slapped with, but
Yep.
here's our new arrangement. So I guess it's like in light of this whole thing, it's kind of interesting because a lot of our falsehood about equality is like totally smashed by this whole idea.
Yeah. I'm glad you used the word equality because I was thinking about it, but somehow the word just kind of skipped past my brain because, I mean, people want to think that they are all equal, but they are not. And the Constitution actually, Article 1 for Congress, Article 2 for President, very, very clear. And that's why, when we look at the tariff case, and Kavanaugh, who dissented, Justice Kavanaugh, kind of say, look, the act that was in question, actually it was like a new act which came from a previous act. And in the previous act, President Nixon actually used the exact same provision to slap 10% tariff. And it passed the scrutinization of the Supreme Court. So he's just saying that, look, if the old act gives the president such power, why now you cannot? And to make things even more ridiculous, I mean, just to kind of, I think, we just say it's a tariff case, right? But actually, the full name of the case is called Learning Resources versus. Actually, they go against the president himself.
Yeah.
And by the way, do you know that this Learning Resources is a conservative company?
I mean, I honestly didn't know until you mentioned it.
And so the people that kind of like, like we talk about, those people who proclaim to be true conservative, they'll be like small government, you cannot have intervention, you cannot help people at all. And it kind of reminded me, even in ancient history, or you talk about even in biblical time, you have the teachers of law, you have the Pharisees, you have those people who doesn't want to change anything. So this is the danger of conservative. You want to conserve everything, but there's no such thing as you conserve everything, right? There is always things that we can progress. But of course, we have the other side, which is a progressive, which they kind of stole the name because what progressive wanted, and we'll talk about that when we discuss State of the Union, such a contrast, and I think that's the skill of President Trump, right? That he was able to draw out the contrast between what he represents and what Democrats represent. So I think we'll go there later. But back to the tariff issue, it's like the majority who say that Trump cannot charge tariff also say that he has full power on importation, full power on embargo of goods. So Roberts and others are basically saying, look, President Trump can say no goods can come into the country. But if he wants to say they can come in if they pay a tariff, then it's not allowed. So it's kind of ridiculous, right? So some legal scholars say, well, why don't Trump just call it a tax or levy or whatever? Can this case be defeated? Some scholars argue it can. Kavanaugh, who dissented, argue you can use other things. And in fact, for him to conclude, he said it's just a bit yawn because it's like you're not stopping Trump here. But the other thing which I find interesting, we talk about during dinner, did you see much reaction from other countries? Are people kind of lining out and say we want to cancel the deal?
No, not at all. I mean, obviously you have some
You hear some noises, but these are not the main decision maker, right?
Yeah, I mean, some people will argue that, okay, Malaysia probably can expect some
some
refund.
opinion pieces from Malaysia, Kini. I mean, the usual Trump derangement gang. But here's the thing, and I think you mentioned it earlier on, which is when the whole thing started at Liberation Day, Trump kind of put a reciprocal level. But that is not his actual target. Like, for example, Malaysia started off, 31%? I can't remember. What was the number? But then what he wanted is, I want certain commitment from you. If you will open your market, if you will invest in United States, if you will buy more things, then I can reduce it. So he did that for every country. So almost even China is not having the kind of tariff that is at the level of the Liberation Day. So in fact, with the removal of tariff from this one statute from the Supreme Court case, that's why some people are saying that why Trump is he mad? Is he crazy? Why he immediately slapped 15%? No, he's not. He's just trying to make the numbers work. That means it will match the threat that he is issuing. But that is not his ultimate goal. His ultimate goal, which for many, many countries, I think the latest country to our neighbor Indonesia recently, I think also got 19%. But they were threatened with 40%, very high. But he never wanted that, but he needed to have the ability to say, I can slap 40%, but let's do a deal and I can bring it down. So that's why in the end, it's like nobody is saying that we're not going to do that because he has many, many avenues, and I don't think you want to challenge him on this kind of thing. So I think for the rest of the world, most people are saying that they want to. In fact, it was Japan or Korea, I can't remember. They were like, I think it was Japan, was quite anxious to kind of let's get it going already in case he changed his mind. So some people are very scared of that. So, but what's your? I mean, before we move to the State of the Union, you have any other thoughts on, this tariff ruling and things like that?
No, I think one thing that a lot of people forgot about is actually he's trying to get the American business, those that have been like offshore for a long time, to kind of like just come back to the land itself. And so I thought a lot of people are missing the point, because if you're like just talking about free market altogether, you actually forgot that actually other countries, many countries, they actually have a lot of protectionism that surrounds the trade in order to protect their own economy. So, or even like locally produced goods. So I felt like that's a whole lot of point that a lot of people, if you're like totally just for free market, I think you kind of like miss the point, because I was kind of like listening to Ben Shapiro as well. I mean, I do have great respect for him, but there are also times that I don't agree with him as well, because I also thought, okay, you make a fair point, but the thing is, because he kept talking about like the reciprocal tariff. I mean, he disagreed with that, but the thing is like many countries have actually so long moved past that point.
That's the thing about libertarian. They cannot explain why other countries can do and we cannot do to them. I'm talking about from American perspective. They cannot. So they are all like celebrating Rand Paul and all those things. But it's like when people ask them back, why are you supporting the country being robbed? And they cannot answer, because libertarians are nutcase when it comes to this kind of thing.
Yeah, and also another thing is that what Trump administration is trying to curb is that there is a lot of transshipment that is going around. And basically, how can you then sell a certain thing if it's like of less superior quality, and you basically market it as though, it seems like it comes from a better perceived country. So I felt like that's also another point where actually that action itself totally destroyed free market.
Yeah, so even in Malaysia now, you say, the whole label made in Malaysia can only now be issued by MITI. It used to be, Chinese Chamber of Commerce, whatever trade association can do, they're all made in Malaysia. So in a way, everyone's standard is going up. So why are they complaining? And of course, the other thing which which Trump kind of mentioned in State of the Union, but the economic data come out, and it's like ever since the tariff with the deal being struck, inflation went down. So remember the early days, one of the first criticism, inflation will go up.
Yep.
That is debunked again and again and again. So I don't know where all these economies now, and then of course the other thing is also the GDP, right? And the first quarter, they say the first quarter from Trump transition to Joe Biden, right? And it was 3.1%. So it's a 3.1% GDP, and I think a few years ago it was Obama who said that there's no way US can ever break 2% GDP anymore, because we're not a growing country anymore. See that's the thing about MAGA, right? They have something great which they can go back to, and Trump in a very relatively short time since his re-election, he proven the economic data. I think credit to him, he has very strong economic team with Besant, Navarro. These are real people who understood how it works. And I think economic critics are getting lesser and lesser. That's why you get some noise from the opinion writer here and there, Zaid Ibrahim and things like that. But all around, you don't see major reaction from major trade partners. China obviously say, the tariff should be cancelled and things like that. But anyway, blah, blah, blah. So I think we kind of spoken enough on tariff. Let's talk about State of the Union, which is very interesting and very long. And obviously, we won't have time to cover all. So maybe the way we do it would be you can choose some of the highlights, some of the things that you felt did that interest you. Maybe we can choose a couple and we see how we go.
Sure. I mean, one of the part of his speech that I really, really like is that he actually dares all the Congress member to stand up if they believe that the first duty of legislator is to protect US citizens, not illegal aliens. I thought that's like, what a great way to basically slap back at the Democrats. So I thought it was like, it's really, honestly, if you are for the country, no one is gonna like go against it. But the thing is, like, a lot of people in their defiant and they will just, nope, I'm not gonna do that.
I mean, are they stupid or what? I mean, it's like, I mean, do you think like they are so deranged in a sense that, we must oppose Trump that, let's say the poll, another issue which the Democrats are trying to oppose, which has 80-90% support from their own base, is the SAFE Act. Just having an ID to vote. I mean, it's like no-brainer, right? But yet, it's a hill they decided they want to die on. So, what do you make? I mean, I totally agree with you that it was such a smart move to contrast, and hopefully more people can see how deranged the Democratic Party have become. But what do you make of all these people? Are they so... I mean, they're so determined to oppose him, or they feel like this is the only way. They're going into the narrow stream now. We are going for the illegal. We are going for the ultra leftists. The Minnesota gang or the Mamdani gang. Are they really going into the super far left? And because that doesn't seem like a great future at all.
Yeah, I mean, if you kind of look at Democrats, the ones that are a bit more vocal and really representing, like, the so-called voices, I suppose, like AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and like Ilhan Omar.
They're like having a shouting match with Trump, man.
Exactly. I mean, I do feel like these people genuinely don't love their country. I mean, it's like, I felt like there is no... I mean, in sports, you have like those who have great sportsmanship, but this is like congressmen, you should have like statesmanship. But the thing is, like, I felt like they have like zero. So there's that portion that I felt like they don't represent at all. And I feel like maybe part of them are so... It's like since you're wrong, might as well go even further wrong. So I felt like they are like really, really at that sort of spectrum where they genuinely, because of their dislike of the country and also dislike of Trump himself, there's like willing to just...
So these are the people who supported... I mean, in the State of the Union, he introduced so many people, right? Including, the little girl who survived a car, truck accident, and that truck accident was driven by unlicensed... illegal, and then of course you have another girl who was forced to transition the gender without approval, because the school kind of transitioned him to become a boy, and then the parents is like no, and then the authority basically say, well, if you don't call him your son, then you cannot see him. It's just so ridiculous, and I think one of the things Trump says is he wants to ban gender transition for minor. I mean, it's like, look, if you're adult, you want to go to Thailand and do your gender transition surgery, that's up to you. I mean, you want to kill yourself, fine. But to do that to minor, to do that to people who doesn't have the ability to choose or doesn't even have the maturity to choose, I mean, that's just child abuse, to put it very mildly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reminded that actually, like, family law is to protect the minor. So it's like a lot of time people thought, okay, I mean, I just want my rights to a marriage. I just want my rights as a citizen. But they kind of like just forgot the most basic part where we have a duty to protect those whom they don't have the ability to protect themselves yet. So I
Yep.
feel like on that note, I do feel Trump is really, really headed towards the right direction. I mean, you can say all you want, like, okay, I'm for my body, my right, my body, my choice, pro-life. I mean, at the end of the day, it goes down to what's the fundamental rights of a human life. So I felt like that part is the thing that has gone so skewed that the progressive has tried to like really just like grab hold so much about this whole ideology that they lost the whole gist of it.
And you can see even in Malaysia, there's a movement to try to validate this. And then, of course, here the LGBTQ will be like saying we're being oppressed and things like that. But you have seen the progression. You know, you give them certain rights, they want more. They want more. So they want eventually, you know, like look at what happened in the West. It's just what's going to happen. They will want to say we want homosexual marriage to be recognized. We want homosexual to be able to adopt children. You know, when you choose a relationship that cannot produce children, then you want to adopt children. I mean, that's the highest irony, right? Then the transition thing is the next thing that is happening right now, and you can see male who pretend to be female wanting to. So Trump has put a stop to all these things, but this is a preview. That I mean, of course, our country, you know, we don't have this kind of things. But if you allowed, you give them an inch, they will take a mile.
Exactly.
This is how militant they are.
Exactly.
So now okay, maybe we can now. Of course, one of the big issue. I mean, a major issue in Trump's administration this time, but which he kind of make it very clear again. It's talking about immigration, and of course, previously we talked about ICE in one episode and things like that. But I mean, I just think about it. I just find it absurd that people cannot differentiate legal and illegal migration. So recently, of course, you have Winter Olympics, and you know there's a few athletes that capture the story. I mean, you have Ellen Gu, okay, you know, who kind of born American but chose to represent China. Then you have Elisa Liu, right? And so interesting that people use Elisa Liu and say, you know, Trump hates her and say, but it's like her father came in legally, and I think just a few days ago, not quite related to what we're saying here, you know, the leader of a top Mexican cartel, which has been untouched for 20 years, have been killed. And one of the arguments, and this is what Tom Homan and a lot of people are saying, is that what people don't understand is with the uncontrolled illegals coming in, they bring the drugs, they bring the fentanyl, they bring the gang, they bring the weapons. It's an invasion. So it's like I find people who are like, yeah, I mean you have people on both sides, but talking about people we know here, and they're you know, if that's why I was even talking to my daughter and she was asking what is ICE and things like that. Then she said, I still don't like Trump and things like that. But I'm like, look, you know, if people come legally and people come illegally, I say, look, if people suddenly want to go to your room and take over your room, are you going to allow it? Then she's like, no, it's the same thing. Why should people? Why you know, like all the Malaysians who say you are for that, then please open your house first and let all the illegals stay in your house. So I just find it absurd because in State of the Union, Trump kind of said, I'm not against legal migration if you pass all the threshold. I mean, I previously I used to apply Australian PR, and I got it, you know, after a couple of years, but they are so stringent. You know, every year they were like, oh, this year, or you know, construction industry, we are lacking. Okay, QS is top of the range. So if you apply more of those years, then you get a lot of points because it's based on what you can contribute to the country. How can you just bring everyone who doesn't contribute? And now Europe is kind of experiencing, I don't know what to say, you know, because remember when Rubio went there in the Munich Security Conference just a couple of weeks ago, right? And he was saying, look, it's not, we don't hate you, you know, you are our friends, but we don't want you to kill yourself. You know, when you kill energy independence by relying on Russia, when you bring in everyone without vetting whether they can contribute to the country or not. then you get a social problem because they don't want to integrate. But anyway, we're kind of like veer off a little bit back to the State of the Union. So, any other highlights for you?
Well, I think one of the things that we did highlight before was that, I mean, obviously it goes well with the tariff issue, is that the inflation, I mean, he talks about the inflation decreasing and
That's
like,
one of his earliest point, right? I think.
yeah, so I thought that was like really, really worth mentioning again because it's really like the inflation was crushed. So I felt like that alone is really, really credit to
So
the
what's
whole
the percentage
administration.
again? Is it core inflation? 1.7%. That's like
Super
crazy, right?
amazing.
Yeah, and then of course gasoline 2.3. I mean, I remember like the last time I went to the States is almost 7-8 years ago, and at that time it's more expensive than this. I remember in Texas considered one of the cheapest. So now on average gasoline is 2.3.
Yeah,
Totally crazy.
exactly. So there's a lot of like those anti-tariff economists that they are basically the core belief is actually being challenged, even just by this whole State of Union.
Yeah, the
Speech
data has
itself.
come out already, and because remember we talk about it. I mean, you can refer to our earlier episode where the main objection is that it will, because they said, well, the cost of tariff will be passed to the consumer and there will be inflation. And John Carney was the first to say, why would it need to pass? Because he at that time, I remember the example he used to be, you get two big retailer, you get Walmart, you get Target. If Walmart say we're going to pass it to the consumer, then Target would just say, okay, then we don't. Then imagine everyone will go to Target instead of Walmart.
Exactly.
So the data is proven already. So far, everything, most are absorbed by somebody, not consumer. So is it the exporter or is it the importer? I guess it depends who is more desperate to sell, right?
Definitely.
And that's why I'll be very interested to see the granular data. When we have the granular data, and I think, I mean, look, we're not like fanboys or anything, but one of the reasons I think we need to kind of remind our viewers and listeners why we are so interested in this topic is because you have somebody who say, I'm going to make America great again, I'm going to revive the economy. As an election manifesto, I'm going to, give the word back. I'm going to do reshoring. I don't know how it's. Everyone is saying it cannot be done. Remember, every smart person on earth say it cannot be done. So-called smart person. But it has been done.
Exactly.
It is being done. So the thing that impressed me the most about Trump is he keeps his election promises. When is the last time you can say about a major democratic leader behaving like this in Malaysia? I mean, Malaysia, we are like so used to promises unkept, right? So that's the thing. Don't think like we are like super pro-American. No, we are not pro-American. It's not our country. But if they can do something which is good, they help their country, why can't we learn? We don't need to have this kind of their colonial. In fact, they don't even colonize us. I mean, it's like what they do to Venezuela, Iran, nothing to do with us. So if there's something that we can learn, why don't we learn? So I think that the tariff thing is really interesting because if you see from the perspective, America is doing great now because of what Trump has done the last 12, 13, 14 months. Okay, so anything else that kind of, I think we can choose a couple more things.
Another one is I feel like it's interesting is also that Trump actually formally launched what they call a war on fraud. So it's, I mean, obviously he talks about Minnesota. I mean, how can you leave it out? So that part itself, I mean, you have like a lot of the Somali community that has been, well, I guess people will want to argue that they're like the minorities, but the thing is, they are the ones really, really committing fraud. And he kind of like gave the mandate to JD Vance to really like, hey, you're gonna lead in this area.
That's like a continuation of Dodge, right? Remember Dodge was doing that, and Elon Musk. No, but by the way, do you see Elon Musk recently was in White House again? And but I guess they kind of made their peace already. And of course, Elon was in charge of DOG. I mean, it's like, so I think it's not very convenient for him to go back and do the fraud. So now he's more like spearheading the SAFE Act. So say he's one of the biggest champion of Safe Act, which is very good. I mean, say whatever you want about Elon, and of course, he's on track to become the first trillionaire on planet Earth. He has his interests, he has his pro-China thing, which is fine. You're doing business, but in terms of this single issue about wanting ID for voting, and he's very passionate about it. I think it is excellent that you have someone who has more than almost 300 million followers on X trying to push for that. So quite interesting that he was there. And obviously, before that, there was some photos circulating. They were having dinner together and things like that. But the fact that he was doing like a mini press conference with Trump before State of the Union, that kind of says it all, right?
Exactly.
So, well, the original DOGE guy is back, but he's not going to look at the fraud. It's going to be JD.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting. A couple more. And
any part that you might enjoy?
yeah, I was just looking mainly on the economic side, and of course he kind of mentioned he wanted to introduce a different healthcare, because which again I think is brilliant, because you think about Obama 8 years, right? What did he achieve? And the only thing he can legitimately say that he achieved, which isn't even that great, was the Obamacare. And here Trump kind of said so clearly, he said that under Obamacare, the one who gets rich was insurance company. And that's the thing that all the American friend who was involved with all these things, and they say this is the one lie that was told to them. Your policy will stay the same. It's not. And many of the policy, the premium become double and triple. Of course, when you want to include so many things, it's basically like a socialist kind of system. And so anyway, that thing is that way. I just find it interesting that with that, and of course the other thing which with the Trump account, and it's like, and it's interesting that Michael Dell, the founder of Dell, I think he pledged billions himself to help with the fund, which is interesting, right? I mean, if you want to help a country, this is better. It's better than or it's better than say someone like Bill Gates like that, with his Gates Foundation or Soros Open Society. I mean, now look at Bill Gates now. He's like so implicated under the Epstein, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, did you see yesterday or the other day, he kind of disclosed to his foundation that he had 2 relationships with a Russian bridge player, and so some people are saying that, are these even foreign agent? Should he be investigated for compromising the national security? Because during that time, Microsoft was like even now, Microsoft is still one of the top national security vendor. Anything else? Maybe we can talk about one more before we kind of wrap up. I mean, the reviews are great, right? I mean, of course, don't bother with the Democrats, but generally, I mean, even CNN, and I think it was Scott Jennings. Of course, he is a conservative commentator in Scott Jennings, and he's just like, he cannot believe how stupid the Democrats are when they got trapped into the question, stand if you agree. And most of them sat down.
Exactly.
So it's like, are you stupid or what? It's like, I mean, if somebody who is not totally brainwashed by their ideology see it, will be like, I'll never vote for them ever again. And then, of course, even CNN owned poll say that Trump did well. I think David Axelrod, which is Obama's top advisor during his campaign, he said, well, Trump really controlled the optics. He was able to present what he wanted to present, and the Democrats didn't respond well. Actually, the last time he did State of the Union, they were already behaving very, very badly, and everyone is like kind of said, not to sell. Next time, please behave. But they imploded even more, right? So, and the only, but of course, John Fetterman went and shook Trump's hand, and people are trying to smear him and say that Trump was not happy with Chief Justice Roberts, not happy, and didn't shake their hands. But actually, the video showed that he did shake. I mean, it's not like a warm kind of thing, kind of like touch, but he has to greet so many people. Even Amy Barrett, yeah, he still shook her hand, but it's like kind of touch and go kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, he just said like the great three will be welcome even more.
Yeah, but then I mean, Kavanaugh did come, but Alito and Thomas didn't come, and so I mean they're close to 80, so I can understand why. Okay, let me just see anything else, and of course, I mean the way he ended, right, which is very interesting because it's like things are evolving. We're not coming from a position of we already attained greatness. Yeah, we have some greatness, but we want to be great again.
Exactly.
And I think one of the things you can see, even from what Trump is trying to do, is yes, we made some mistakes with trade. We underestimated China. We allowed globalism to run rampant, and now it's correction course. And we can be great again, but we have to acknowledge our mistakes. So that's really the feeling I get, that it's okay to change course. It's okay to say we make a mistake. And did you see somebody posted Bill Clinton State of the Union speech 30 years ago? The content is literally the same as what Trump is saying now. We will stop all illegal. That's what Bill Clinton said in 92 or 93 or 95. I can't remember already. So it's like, wow, in 30 years, the whole party can have a 180 degree. And that kind of just shows me that every generation have to fight their own life. We think about in Malaysia, like May 13, NEP, it's like a totally different era. We can't, I mean, it affects us, but we cannot say that it's our era, right?
No, we can't.
Yeah, so it's like those things are important. Those things are important for us to know where we came from, but it doesn't define us. So we are not trapped by that, but we have a different kind of issue. I mean, of course, the race, religion still is a thing. So, but that's the thing I felt like I learned from Trump's State of the Union speech is, yes, you continue to advance. If you make certain mistake, then the present generation will have to do it. Some people are in their 70s, 80s, 90s. They will be like, look, I already tak larat already, which is fine. But then those of us who are still in a season of possessing our inheritance, then we should do our best, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of like just reading through what Theodore Roosevelt mentioned before. I mean, one of his greatest speech was that he talks about the man in the arena. Because at the end of the day, you still are in it, like as in like you just have to do everything to continue pushing through. So I think that is what separates an ordinary person from like a great person. So I felt like that part is really well put, and it's really kind of like the theme for this season. And even looking at what Trump has been saying, I feel like he does carry such a maturity in the sense that he is like he looked back at the past, what in a first term, and basically he like gained more hindsight and more revelation to what he could have done differently. And because first term is all about like he's kind of being swamped by the administration itself, although he did say draining the swamp. But so I think this time he really selected a great strong team, and that really kind of caused the whole thing to shift completely.
Yeah, I mean, talk about that. I mean, of course, you still get some people from the MAGA side not happy with Susan Wiles and all those people, but just compare based on what we can see, it's like day and night, right? I mean, look at his first term, so many people was sabotaging him left, right, and center. I mean, we thought McKinney was great. I mean, she was a good press secretary, but look at the current one. She's like it's like so much better, there's no other. I mean, McKinney was very competent, very sharp, but Levitt is just like different level altogether.
Yeah, and she was like interning previously.
Yeah, I mean the way the press secretary behaves, she's more like a press manager, She has the authority to go and smash people and things like that. So I mean, of course, Rubio, Hegseth, Bessent, all did well, right? I mean, so at least from what we can see, he definitely has learned something, and he was adjusting. So anyway, I know we don't have time to go over the nitty gritty, but I mean, we will see again. So far, we haven't seen a lot of international response to tariff. I think there won't be much response.
I think so too.
I mean, our government say we will study. There's nothing to study, okay? It's like what has been agreed is already lower than what he can charge you. So do not doubt me. I think so. I mean, he wanted to establish that margin he can impose, but he said, no, I'm going to give you 50% discount for most nations. So, but anyway, we'll see if there are more interesting things. I mean, as of the recording, I think one of the issues not mentioned in the tariff case, of course, is the 190 billion tariff already collected. So Federal Express
Yes, yeah.
sue the government to take. So we shall see how it goes. But somebody will say, well, if the 180 million, well, maybe most of it came from, I don't know, from exporter. But if Trump said, okay, I'm going to give it back to the economy.
I thought another case that the Supreme Court will have to decide very soon would be the birthright citizen.
Yes.
I thought that was kind of interesting. That can be something that could look forward as well.
Oh, yeah. So that's another case where Elon is like, so you see, I see Elon is trying to provide certain kind of social media overview support. So Elon himself is foreign born, but he just say that, look, it's totally nuts that you can become citizen just by virtue of being born in the United States. So that will be another case. And Trump kind of in the press conference for the tariff and say, wow, the Supreme Court might rule against this and it'll be disaster. So he's kind of preempting them already. So we shall see. See. So I think that's all the time we have for today. So if any questions, any topic that you want us to dive deeper, just let us know. Until next time, bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.